Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome online today for our members night. This is Michael Firth, one of our founding field advisory members with Neumi, and it's my pleasure to run this session today for all the members around the world. We have people logging in the Zoom room right now. We have people I'm looking at right now in the Neumi members group. Do us a favor, type in exactly where you are logging in from today. And while I do that, I just want to make another little reminder, and that is that we have said numerous times now, please do not log in as Neumi, because somebody does it every week and we keep booting them out of the room and then they can't get back in for the events. But I've said it 45 times. It's only because when corporate log in, they are called Neumi and I need to recognize who they are. So I cannot have numerous Neumi logins in that web room. Now we have people who are logged in right now from Oklahoma, from where are we? Neumi family, Ontario, Canada. We have Indiana, Texas. We have Western Australia. Here in the Zoom room, we also have people in from all over the place. We have Canada, Laguna Beach, Philippines, we have Hawaii, we have Montreal, we have New York. You're typing faster than I can keep up. Sunshine Coast, Australia. Welcome, Graham, from down the road. Don't you love this technology? It makes the world such a small place. So today, I'm really rapt to be able to share with you this particular event. And our events are always designed around what members want. And we had a number of members say, you know what, we haven't heard from Bert for a little while. It'd be great to hear from him. Now, I want to say we're going to give you a little shorter version today, but there's certain things that we're going to be covering off with Bert at the second anniversary event. So we're not going to cover off what would be covered there, but we will be having a fantastic call today. Now, having said that, there's some great questions were submitted. I just want to say to everybody that I did say yesterday, submit your questions in the next couple of hours, and then we'll put them forward. Some questions have come in way after the deadline, and of course, we had to organise today's event. So we won't be taking any questions from the chat. In fact, just to make sure we understand that, I'm going to freeze the chat because we don't want questions going in there right now. Then we'll, obviously, if you have questions that were submitted afterwards, we'll try and get them on another call at another time. So now we're really blessed to have Bert online. What I love about this business is that when we got started, you know, when I went to my first event at the Diamond Retreat, Ryan didn't know how tall I was, how short I was, whether I ever wore pants, because all he sees is this. And when I met him, I realized that Ryan was towering up here and Aaron was down here, and Bert, in case you don't know, is very tall as well. And I got to meet him the first time. So he's a gentle giant, but he's also a super intelligent man. And we're so blessed to have him involved with Neumi. So I'm going to ask him a few questions based on what the members have actually asked us for, which are already pre-formatted. Having said that, I want to share one thing before we get into the science. And I said this to Bert, and he was happy for me to share this. In my experience with Steve in a previous company, what was interesting, they had a great product, not as advanced as what we have today and double the price. That's a whole other story, but a great product nevertheless. And what I found was when I got involved in the glutathione world about 16 years ago now, that in that particular business, two camps formed very quickly. One was the ones who knew everything about the product and everything about every peer-reviewed thing on the planet that you could possibly dream of to do with that product. And then I met people like Alex Amadarosa who knew all that information, yet didn't say that when he was prospecting. I'm like, that's really interesting. What's the difference? To this very day, that previous company, the people who have so much knowledge and science and drowned everybody in peer-reviewed studies have teeny weeny little businesses. Wow, that's interesting. Why is that? Didn't the knowledge give them enough knowledge to build a huge business? No, what happened was they complicated things. And people would say to them, oh, I'd love to try a product that's amazing. I couldn't do what you did because that was very, very complicated. Lots of peer-reviewed studies, lots of, drowned you in science. And so I was speaking to Alex about that, and he said, yeah, look, getting the knowledge is good for your internal for yourself to have confidence, but it's not the sort of stuff you start talking about in the field. So what I realized was those people who dumbed it down created very simple duplicatable businesses, hence the Neumi 1, 2, 3 process. Let a video do the work, don't become the expert, versus some of our doctors and medical professionals who are affiliated with us. And of course, they need that information, but that has nothing to do with the general membership. So I just wanted to say that at the outset, because I said this on a training call last week, and it's quite topical actually, because I've been going to the gym myself lately, because I want to make sure I look like Dr. Crozier on the next event, right? That some people get big, bulky muscles here and they have chicken legs because all they're doing is studying one thing, how to make big biceps at the gym. And they forget about doing a well-rounded approach. Similarly, some people have all this glutathione knowledge, but they don't know how to deal with people or build a business. So it's important to round everything off. Yes, get the science, Don't drown yourself in too much science, though. That's really important as well. So as we get it underway, the first thing I would love to do, Bert, is welcome you to the call.
Thank you. Appreciate
Bert,
it.
No, we appreciate you. So what I would love to do, Bert, is a lot of people haven't had the luxury of getting to know you and understanding your background before you came to Neumi. So could you give us a very quick synopsis of your background and nanotechnology, and how did you end up here today?
The question is always there. I've got to tell you that about almost just after the turn of the century, 2002, 3, I got involved with a company that was going into the nano business. My role and my background is legal, of all things. And I was in-house counsel for this group. And we started going through the steps of getting ourselves into a nano world. At the time, to be honest with you, it was a stock play. Everything that was nano at the time was selling at 11 or 12 times value as opposed to 6 or 7. So the concept for the guys that were involved were going to be to simply take a company, add the nano, spin the company. We went public, and everybody lived happily ever after. I got into the nanotechnology side of things and fell in love with it. Actually, it's now an obsession. So for 20 years, I've been involved with nano, both hard nano, which means nano coatings and those types of things, as well as the soft nano that we're involved with on the human supplements. So that's kind of how I backed into this one. But man, I wouldn't trade this one for the world. I'm having a ball.
Beautiful. Well, we're so glad that you made that decision and that you're with us. So it's interesting because when we talk about nanotechnology, I say this to people, there's nanotechnology and nanotechnology. And, you know, by saying, for example, if I had a roller skate and you had a Ferrari and we both say we've both got vehicles, well, we do, but one is very different to the other. So when it comes to nanotechnology, so that people can understand one size doesn't fit all, can you just explain a little bit about what is nanotechnology?
Sure, absolutely. Nanotechnology is the study of very, very, very small particles. If you take a meter stick, for those of you who are not into meter world, it's about 39 inches. You divide it into a billion pieces, you've got a nanoparticle. To give you a sense of how small we're dealing with, if you were to take the circumference of the Earth and call that a meter, a nanometer is about 1.5 inches, maybe this much of my finger. It is just incredibly small. And the study of it has become, it's been involved since the early 90s. It's been around forever, but it's now being studied more and more and more. And it really is a study of very, very small particles. And the benefit that we have with it is that one of the biggest advantages is the surface area. Most chemical reactions, most biological reactions happen on the surface of a particle or of a chemistry. And that surface area depends on the size of that particle or the chemistry particle. And so what happens is if you were to take let's say a soccer ball, and you would take the surface of the soccer ball, take a razor knife and open up the soccer ball and lay it flat, you got about 2 feet worth of area. And that's the surface area. But if you take the same volume of that soccer ball and turn it into ping pong balls, and if you were to be able to play each one of those and open it up, that surface area goes up exponentially to the point where if you did that with nanoparticles, if you got a soccer ball full of nanoparticles, and if you could open them up and lay them out, you've got the equivalent of almost 60 soccer pitches. I mean, the surface area of a soccer field times 60. And so it's an amazing science because you can use that science to be able to make things more reactive, more biologically available, more all of those kinds of things. So that's really the reason we do technology. That's the nanotechnology.
Beautiful, beautiful. Great layman explanation. And we did say, by the way, guys, beforehand, Bert's going to do his best to keep this very layman so that the average person can comprehend what we're talking about. We don't want to drown you into it.
And don't cut up the soccer ball because your kid's going to hate you for it.
Spot on. So with this in mind, when we talk about the word nanotechnology or nanoparticles, we're not going to go directly into that topic of why people are bringing it up, because we're not here to our products are not designed to treat, cure, prevent any disease. We're not competing with anything. Having said that, how do you, for the people who've been caught up with a little bit of knowledge, which is dangerous, caught up with any negative hype about the word nanoparticles, how do you address that stigma?
Well, I think that it's a new, I mean, for a lot of people, it's a brand new technology. It truly isn't. Our bodies are nano machines. We eat a carrot and we turned it into particles that are the size of nanoparticles to feed us. But the whole concept behind nanotechnology and all of that, I mean, it's healthy. It's a healthy thing to have a concern. I'm not trying to naysay anybody that's not concerned. I mean, there's issues on, human contamination or the environment or self-replicating robots that we're not ever going to. There's a lot that is involved with looking at it, and it's really kind of a risk balancing. And in the wrong hands, obviously, anything that's good can turn bad. Anything that's bad can turn good in the right hands. And so I think that there is, the concerns are a lot of times formed because of insufficient information. Simply, they don't know enough about it. There's speculation, there's rumor. It is tough for any of us to say, oh, it's something I don't understand, and therefore I will reject it. I've watched nano as an industry. When it first started to really burgeon, everybody was excited about it. Then everybody, within a year, everybody was scared to death of it. And now, over the years, it's become more and more acceptable in ways that are amazing to us. Absolutely amazing. There are things that are happening that I can't even begin to tell you what we're going to see. And it's the beginning of a long term. Nano's not going to go away.
Yep, love it, love it. It's interesting. While you're saying that, I was thinking, when someone said this to me recently, asked me a question about, nanoparticles, aren't they bad? And I'm like, well, you know what? My analogy is this. And I was brought up in the same house as a family member of mine. I won't mention the name, but my mother always said we were made with chalk and cheese, So when it comes to money, my perception is money is neutral, right? Money pays hitmen, money builds churches, money feeds the poor. So money's neutral, but put money in the wrong hands and you might have a problem. Put it in the right hands, it does amazing things. Whereas one of my family members who just sees everything, money is bad, money is bad. Well, no, money's neutral. Same with nanotechnology. Put it in Bert's hands, I feel very safe, right? And Steve Scott's and so forth. Put it in the wrong hands, absolutely. It probably be something you don't want to have anything to do with. So great concern, but you're in good hands here. Now, next question is, can you tell us about the use of lipids versus water and the benefits of that? Because that's one of our uniquenesses, isn't it?
Well, I think that's that particular item is fairly important. Making nanoparticles is not a unique science to one or two industries. There are a lot of people that can make nanoparticles, and they're either made from the top down, which is basically grinding and milling and taking a larger particle and continually breaking it into smaller particles, or from the bottom up for creating it out of chemistry. The biggest problem with making small particles is that they have a great tendency to want to reagglomerate. They want to get together with their buddies. And to keep them separated, we have to physically do something that will keep those electrical charges from being able to attract each other. And so a lot of people will do a lot of things. In the coatings world, you take the nanoparticles and you put it in a ceramic metallic coating, and you spray it down as a matrix, and it stays separated. In science, in the soft nano, you put a mycel, a coating around it, or somehow do something that will keep them separated. There are a lot of people that will use lipids. A lipid is a fat. It's a wax. It's a Fat-soluble vitamin is a lipid. There are a number of different types of lipids, and lipids are designed to be, and they are also polar in nature. And so what happens is that you take it and you take a small waterborne particle and you wrap it in lipids, because the particle itself is not friendly to water. It doesn't dissolve easily. And so they will put the coating that they'll put around it will be a lipid. They've called them liposomes. And what it is it's 2 layers worth of lipids that keep the particle surrounded until it's used in the cell. It's not a bad program. And as a matter of fact, they're very effective. But the biggest issues with them is stability, and also some of the issues on how they're formed and when they're formed and what happens after the lipid is involved and absorbed into the cell. So for us, we take a look at that same issue, trying to keep things apart, trying to keep things separated. And what we've been able to achieve is that we're able to wrap it with a water cluster so that we don't have issues like oxidation. That's one of the issues with the lipid side, is there's an oxidation stability issue. With us, we don't have that. The other piece that we don't have is the body's concern about, once you get the lipid inside your cell, what do you use it for? Now, some lipids are very, very good in cells. Not all lipids are bad, but it's just a difference in our feelings that we want something more clean. So there is a difference, huge difference in how we wrap our nano and how somebody else will wrap theirs.
Interesting. I can say this, guys, because having been in the glutathione and supplementation world now for 16 years, I've gone through, I've had intravenous glutathione, which is awesome, but expensive. I've had taken glutathione knowing that it does next to nothing because it gets destroyed, taken cysteine things, seen no results, taken precursors, got awesome results, took liposomals. Suddenly, in my case, just saying me, results disappeared. And then seeing the evolution of our product from the first version you came up with, Bert, to the 27 times more potent, to the 6 times more potent again, and boom, the results off the charts. And it's not an exact number or science, guys, but if I had 10 prospects in the past, there was a lot less getting a obvious result from the product than I've experienced right now. And when I went through the lipids space, I had next to nobody going raving. So I can just say experiential. It's important, I suppose, that this is an experiential product. And now this isn't one of the questions we talked about, but it just popped to my mind, Bert. I hope you don't mind answering this one. So, I mentioned before about nanotechnology, you can use that term, but you could be down to, correct me if I'm wrong, if I got down to 200 nanometers, I'm still a nanotechnology product. But if I'm down to 10 nanometers, under 20, you can penetrate the blood-brain barrier. Under 10, you can do all sorts of things. There is a difference in nano depending on how small you get. Would I be correct?
Yes, and anything that's in nanotechnology, somebody will say, well, we're dealing in nanotechnology. That's anything less than 100 nanometers. The body itself will deal with particles larger than that. But again, it comes back down to the surface area side of things. And the difference between 100 nanometer particle and a 10 nanometer particle are twofold. One is that in some cases they're more easily absorbed, and the more important is that they are much more bioavailable because of the surface area. It isn't just a 10-to-1, it's an exponential number. So being down to 200 nanometers is not a bad deal, but being down at 10 is a much better deal. So it's comparatives.
That's fantastic. That might explain something, actually, because the previous company I was talking about with liposomals never used the word nanotechnology. So they were just talking about liposomals. So maybe they were way bigger than we're talking about, and hence the result difference was quite dramatic. So with that in mind, we have an amazing skin product. And I know I was involved before we even had the skin product. So, I saw where people started spraying it and spraying the ingestible and getting results. And that led us down the path of creating a skin product. Some people, I'll preface this question before I ask the bird, some people just spray in a humid climate like in the Sunshine Coast and never use a moisturizer and never need one because it's saying, oh my God, my skin's so plump, I don't need it. In some drier climates, some people do use a moisturizer as well. So there is not one size fits all because it depends. The hyaluronic acid does attract moisture from the air. Having said that, the question is, will Neumi ever be coming out with a dedicated moisturizer?
I don't think we ever reject anything out of hand. That's one of the fun things that we do here, is that people will ask us if we're going to try this or try that. I don't see doing a moisturizer right away. A moisturizer, as we know it in the cosmetic industry right now, is basically an overcoat. Its job is to soften the very outside layer of the skin by using the liquid, the water portion of the moisturizer, to soften those cells, and then to seal from the outside that moisture. It keeps the moisture in, it keeps the dryness out. It's like a piece of saran wrap on your skin. Well, not most of them smell better, and you can rub them in a little better. But the whole concept is that that is a surface product. Our product, I don't think, is a surface product. I think we've got some pretty good absorption in it. And so seeing us go to a moisturizer, I don't see that happening in-house. I can give you a personal side of it, and that's what my wife has used the skin formula. I've actually been involved with skin formulas for 15 years. And she will spray it on, let it dry, and then she still adds a moisturizer. We live in Utah, which is a desert. And so she feels like she needs that side of things. But like you said, there are some that don't need it, some that do. I don't see us coming out with a moisturizer, but hey, I'm never going to suggest that we don't have all our products.
No, that's beautiful. And I suppose, guys, just from a field perspective, this is the first time for me with a network marketing company where I've been privy enough to see behind the curtain, and you guys do too, because it's transparent, and see how much work's involved in creating, launching a new country. It's not as simple as, let's switch on the flag. Getting a new country requires a lot more than that behind the scenes, and getting new products as well. And I think, and when I think about it, even though I know most people I know don't use a moisturizer with their product, but some do, I'd rather Bert put his attention and creativity into something that's going to be a world beater in another part of the market to open up a whole other market than just, covering off those that do need the moisturizer. But long term, maybe we'll get one, who knows? That'd be interesting to see. Now, on the same note of the skin product, this is an interesting question, right? So one individual from their, what do they say? Their perspective of the world, what they are seeing with their personal family members, not a macro level like we can with the amount of members in the group. They've said some of their members in the Philippines are seeing immediate results and some do not with the skin product. Does the type of skin with certain nationalities mean that there needs to be a stronger product for different races? Now, before you answer that, Bert, let me point out that we have people who are African-American skin going, bang, instant results. They are Filipinos, they're Australians. I was always this white. So we're clear, right? I might have smoother skin, but I was always pale, got pommy parents. So what's your perspective about that? Do we need a special product for a specific market?
That's a great question. I have not seen that. I mean, we've been doing this for a while, and I've not seen a situation where we have a particular skin type that has, or at least a racial skin type that's had that kind of issue. We've had issues with some that have oilier skin, some that have drier skin, but not from a geographical place. I have not seen it, so I don't know what to tell you. That's what I don't know.
Fantastic. Well, that's honest. And can I just say too, guys, this is interesting because how long? Sometimes people say, how long does it take to get a result? For me, and I say this to everyone, so I don't mind saying it recording, as they say in your household, there is toilet paper scrunches and toilet paper folders, and one lasts longer than the other. So how long does a piece of toilet paper last? How long does a spray last? Well, there is misters, there is sprayers, and then there's me, super soakers. Liz is always going to stop using so much of that stuff because I'm obsessed with it, right? So I got a better result than somebody who's just going to go mist a couple of times, right? And so I suppose the more you use the product, the better the result potentially. But the other angle I want to come at, I've seen it myself, where a family member who walked every day, he's passed away, bless him, but he was in his 80s. He walked every day in the sun with a hat on, but he had sunspots everywhere. We sprayed his face, and within 30 minutes, you could see a result. It's like, wow, look at his skin. But it was really, really ruddy and bad skin. So maybe, depending on not even your personality, your racial profile, maybe your skin is somewhat okay, and the next person's skin is really bad, and as a result they might see quicker results there. Who knows? I suppose that's just a blanket statement. Now, next question is, where does the L-cysteine come from for the swish?
The benefit that we have is that we have a chance to buy the very best raw materials because we use so little in our products. Our L-cysteine, one of the questions that people are asking are L-cysteine, L-glutathione, our collagen. All of them are very reagent grade raw materials. Our L-cysteine comes from a vegetarian fermentation. So it's vegan, it's halal certified, it's kosher certified. Our glutathione is the same. It comes from a yeast product, so it is not unnatural. It's vegan again, halal and kosher. There are a number of different places you can get different types of products. Both our major products are derived from vegetable sources, not animal sources.
Okay, brilliant. Well, that leads to another question further down, which I'm just going to reiterate as well, because someone said, where's the glutathione derived from? I heard fish scales. Now, I know that's not correct. That fish scales is the collagen, correct?
The collagen.
Glutathione? Yeah, glutathione. Where does that actually come from?
The glutathione's from a yeast product that gets fermented. I certainly think that that's something, if we were to ever notice or ever to find that what all the steps are, it would scare us all. But in both cases, those two, the cysteine and the glutathione, come from internationally known chemistry manufacturers. So both of those are vegan. On the collagen side, we actually use fish skin, not fish scales. The fish skin has a stronger collagen, has a richer collagen. But that's where you may have found the fish scales, was a collagen comment.
Yeah, right. Interesting. Funny you say that, because I said to somebody once who was saying they were vegan, I've gone, well, I'm sure they pluck each fish scale off nicely, then pat it and let it swim away, but obviously not. Now, by the way, some people are typing in things like, oh, is all of this written down somewhere? I just want to reiterate for those who got in late. This is not designed for you to write it down to know, because if you do, you'll slow the growth of your business down. This is designed for you to have a recording that you can then send out to people. So you do not need to be the information source and be a Bert, but you can play it back later, absolutely later. So let me go back to the questions, because I jumped ahead one. Does the temperature of the product stored have an impact on its shelf life?
Generally, an unopened bottle, the temperature is pretty innocuous. It probably doesn't make a huge difference. Once you do open a product, I think it has all of the issues with having broken the seal. You probably have some issues with the higher temperatures beginning to degrade the product. And when I'm talking about higher temperatures, it would be temperatures that would be over 105, 110 Fahrenheit that would start to degrade that kind of a product.
Okay, interesting. So by the way, I can say, guys, I know some people have had a product on the shelf in a warm country now for a number of years, opened the product and had no issues with it, which is interesting. So there's a question here, which is interesting, because I can vouch that I am probably the biggest crash test dummy. So I want to say, before I say this, our products are not designed to treat, cure, prevent any disease. They should only be used as they say on the label. I remember ringing Steve one day and saying, hey, I've been spraying stuff in my eyes. He's like, don't do that. Right? He said, there's no reason it's going to be bad, but it's not, you don't want to duplicate that in the field, because what if someone had some unique scenario or whatever? So the question is, can Neumi skin be sprayed in the eyes, not over like we do?
I think that the answer to that is that the eye's natural pH is about a 7. It's neutral. And our products are someplace between 4 and 5 pH. So it's a little more acidic. As far as we know, there's been no indication that there's an issue with getting it in your eye if you're spraying wildly. I don't think I would stand there and open my eyelid and spray it dramatically in my eye, but certainly any overspray would have no problem at all.
Yeah, well, I'm a living, breathing example of a super soaker that does that, but I don't spray it in the eyes on purpose anymore. And so always use the product as instructed on the label. There's my legal out for that one. Now, on the legal outs, one thing as members, we're not allowed to use any disease name in any social media post in a Neumi group, in a group loosely connected to Neumi in any way. We can't affiliate our product with any disease words or medical conditions, full stop. Otherwise, you can get your account suspended, you can get us shut down. So we really want to keep Neumi around for a long, long, long time. Having said that, someone typed a question, and I already know what answer you're going to give, but I want to justify them with a question. This person said, my doctors advised me to continue with Swish through my radiotherapy. I know it's a touchy subject. Can Bert give me his thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, we're not a medical company. Secondly of all, we don't give medical advice. And thirdly, did I tell you we're not a medical company? No, the reality of that, I think there is something to be said. And that's that if any of us have any kind of medical issue, whether it's our products or any other supplement on the marketplace, it's not a bad idea to be able to have an opportunity to talk with your treating physician and say, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm thinking of. Are there any contraindications of any sort? That's, I think, a must. I think if a doctor gives you advice one way or the other, I think that you need to at least listen because he's a paid professional. I think you need to get a feeling for yourself after he's made that comment or he or she's made that comment. But I do think that as we look at what we do, we would be really strangled if we said, oh, just ignore your doctor. I mean, that's crazy. Because this isn't medical. This isn't, we aren't healers of the medical art.
Beautiful. Great answer. Great answer. And on that note, somebody, the same person actually asked the question, I noticed we've got acrylic bottles right now. Is it BPA free? Is it safe plastic? And B, why can't we have glass? Now, I just want to, before Bert answers that question about why we've got the bottles we have, by saying, number one, we started with glass bottles on the spray product. And when we, in the first year, talked to any Canadian that was involved in year one, they have battle scars from the totally shattered bottles, because once it gets to a certain temperature, the glass and the product just shatters. So we cannot have glass for that very reason. Otherwise, we've got to exclude all the areas that freeze, which is a lot of the part of the world in the Northern Hemisphere at certain times of the year and far south. So with that, Bert, what's your answer to the plastic and free of toxins?
The plastic side of things, as you all know, that there are a number of plastics out there. And most of them, and I've got a bottle here, most of them have a little number on the bottom. I don't know if you can even see it. It's way small. In this case, this is one of our bottles, and the recycling number is 1. In other words, it's one of the very best recycled products. And it's made of PET, or PETE. Let me see if I can think of what that means. Polyethylene terephthalate, I think. I can't remember the name exactly, but it is not one that it doesn't have any PABAs or any of those types of plastic things that would normally leach out in a setting like this. Our formulas themselves are non-corrosive, obviously. And so the plastic itself is as good a plastic. Here again comes back to the highest and best use. The plastic is as good as any plastic that we can use. We're very satisfied that we have no issues with the plastic sloughing or anything like that.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And so where have we got here? The next question. Now, this is an interesting one because I haven't asked you this question myself, but I have thought it in the back of my mind. I know we've gone through various formulas and got, more product in there, more glutathione, more cysteine, etc. At one point, we did have NAC and alpha lipoic acid in the Swish, but we don't now. Is there a reason behind that?
Yeah, there is a couple of reasons. On the NAC, the FDA has played a love-hate operation on that one. And on days they like it, everybody's happy. And when days they don't like it, they call it too much of a drug, and anything that's got in it has got some issues. And Amazon, when we were selling you made the comment that some of these chemistries and some of these formulas have evolved over the last 4 or 5 years. There was a point in time when Amazon, the big marketplace, would not take a product that had NAC in it. We are fortunate because NAC, N-acetylcholine or cysteine, is a precursor to what we do anyway. It's designed mainly in the body to be able to buffer the fact that the glutathione and cysteine don't digest well. And so the need for it is much less than other products might be. The alpha lipoic acid, unfortunately, does not play well in water. Its solubility is extremely low. And so what we were finding as we were building our formulas is that we would put in the alpha lipoic and then start running our systems, and it would fall out, or it would gum up, or it would otherwise block the other products. And so in that case, in both cases, we removed it, looking at it very seriously. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're not compromising any of the effectiveness of our products. We looked at those and said those were products, those were ingredients that were not giving us the best bang for our buck. And so we took them out.
Okay, that's great. Well, I can tell you from a member's point of view, if anything, the results from the product have got better and better and better. So it hasn't had an adverse effect in any negative way, which is great. With that in mind, I just noticed some people in the member group are typing in questions. We did say submit your questions yesterday. We don't have time to add new questions into the chat today. Just so we're clear, we're not ignoring you, but we have to. Now, are there any adverse reactions to Neumi products if you have a chronic condition such as, and I can't believe this question was typed this way, an autoimmune disease, COPD, or cancer? I want to say before Bert opens his mouth, our product's not designed to treat, cure, or prevent a disease. We're not it's not a medicine. Everything he said a minute ago applies to this question, no doubt. Is that just a copy-paste answer, Bert?
Well, it is. It's a consistent answer. And it has to be a consistent answer for us. Let me suggest that here again, if you've got a chronic condition like those you just listed, you work with your treating physician. Show him the bottle, talk to him about what we are doing, ask him what his or her advice would be. I have not seen any issues, but I'm not about to suggest that if you've got them, you shouldn't ignore everything that's been said and learn as much as you can about it before you try it. And if you try it, and if it isn't helping you, then in that particular case, I hate to say it, but it may be better not to be used.
Yep. Beautiful. And you know what? This leads me to something that's not written in our questions, but it's just a thought I want to share online. A little bit of knowledge is dangerous. And this is one of the things I want to protect about Neumi long-term is someone trying to become an expert, they're not. For example, the previous company. Suddenly they know everything about glutathione, and glutathione's a cure-all for every single thing on the planet. Is it right? There's going to be scenarios where it is. And I'll give you a good example, and this, again, I'm prefacing this. I'm not giving advice before I say this. I'm just saying what I noticed in the field. For example, somebody turned around once and said, this person's got cancer. And of course, free radicals become cancer. So they need to use glutathione. Well, A, you're not an oncologist. Zip it. B, you're not allowed to give prescriptive advice as a Neumi member. So rather you leave us than give that advice. And C, here's the curveball. There is some cancers that thrive on glutathione. What? Exactly. You're not an oncologist. Don't open your mouth about stuff you're not really knowledgeable about in every area. Always refer people back to their expert. Now, it's very rare from what I've heard, and I'm not the expert. I'm just saying that's why I never give advice. I also heard there was a Chinese company where someone gave some advice and a child died from something, and they sued the company, they sued the individual, and you don't want to be that person. So we are a nutrition company. That's it. And we don't give prescriptive advice on our products in any way, shape, or form. Now, having said that, let's move on. Can you have too much glutathione in your body? What a great layman question.
It is a great question. The great scientists of the world have a process by which they give mice or rats as much of a product as they can, and up to the point where they have out of 100 rats or 100 mice, 50 of them die. So it's called a lethal dose 50, LD50 levels. It's just chilling to me to think that goes on, but they have set on glutathione and I'm remembering this kind of off the top of my head, it's like 5 grams per kilogram. So if you were the average woman, and someplace in the neighborhood, you'd have to have someplace in the neighborhood of 375 grams of glutathione in your body in order for it to be have a lethal dose. Now, of course, your question was, can you have too much? And obviously, if you get to the lethal dose, you've had too much. But even back behind that, but to put that in perspective, that would be like somebody consuming 1,700, 1,800 of our 10-ounce bottles and have it in their system all at the same time for it to be too much.
Yeah, wow. Wow. Well, I can vouch for this. Again, not treating, curing, preventing. I had something happen to me when I was in New Zealand and I wasn't feeling so good. And I suddenly went to bed, and people in New Zealand knew all about that. And so I got told by Steve, just swish every hour. So I swished every hour, right? But if I wake up in that night, I swished again. And I'm like, okay, then swish again. Liz said I stunk like sulfur the next day. I went through one entire bottle, but I bounced out of bed. We went to the airport. There was absolutely nothing wrong with me. I did have a check later on and discovered I was still symptomatic, but I felt great. That's all I can say. I'm not talking about anything specific here. So back to this one. And you kind of answered this question a minute ago, but is there any limitations on what we can nanosize with HydraStat?
Wow. No, with our technology, it's a cross-platform technology, really. It's a great technology. And what we do is we try to invent and look at formulas using ingredients that are water soluble, because they're easier to break down into very small particles, and they're very easy to incorporate. We have the ability right now that we are taking particles and ingredients that may not be as water soluble, and we're doing some emulsions, and we're doing some right now we're wrestling with botanicals of all things, and sometimes those are not water soluble and not easy to break down into small particles. And so we're going through a nano precipitation process where we dissolve it in another solvent that is not like an ethanol, and get it dissolved and then drip it into pure water, and the dripping process precipitates out nanoparticles. It's a fairly involved process, but that's the actual creation of the products is an ongoing thing. Love it. That's one of the things I wake up every day trying to figure out what to do and how to do it. But your question should be, or is, not what can we put in a product. The question should be, what should we put in a product? There's a big difference between those two.
That's interesting. We almost need to have a tagline, ethical nanotechnology, because that's exactly right, isn't it? You know, it's more about that. On that note, another question relating to pregnant women and nursing mothers. Now, I know my version of this answer I'm going to give, and then I'll ask you if I'm on the money. Doesn't matter when you go down to GMC, one of the big health food shops around here, and you pick up all these products, every one of them, the new nutrition, all say the same thing. This product is not designed for pregnant women, nursing mums, children under 18 years of age, because to do that, every one of those companies would have to have tests proving the safety for that particular scenario. Added to that, in the 16 years I've been involved in the glutathione space, do I know mums, nursing mums or pregnant mums that were still using some form of glutathione supplementation? Yes, if they were beforehand, but not if they were already pregnant or nursing and suddenly did it, because it causes a detox. And where do the toxins come out? Believe it or not, ladies, it goes out in your breast milk as well. Ugh. So what answer have you got to that question, Bert?
Well, exactly that. One of the things that will continue to happen and should happen is that, again, these are risks and benefits that we have. We ought to look critically about how we take it, not lightly. We shouldn't just say, oh, let's just try it. Because there are a number of different issues when you get involved with pregnancies, with breast milk, with all of those things. The individual that's involved in that is much, much smaller than Bert or any of the others out there, and that may have a difference. And so your comment is everything we have is not designed for those that are pregnant, those that are breastfeeding, those that may have some other health compromise. We're a supplement. We're not a cure.
Got it. Beautiful. Now, interesting, I just saw these in the corner, and some of the doctors that have been on calls with me know this. I say, when you're a medical professional, you need to put your red hat on. That's the swish hat. You can talk to your doctors about glutathione till the cows come home with all the details and knowledge that you have. But whatever you do, if you want to build a big Neumi business, don't be doing that with your prospects, because people say complicated, couldn't do that. And then you put on your Neumi 1, 2, 3, need a bluer hat. I say that to ask the final question, and that is that, as I said at the start of this call, having a lot of knowledge on glutathione can actually be a problem, and because you'll start waffling off like trying to be Bert, and then you slow your business growth down because you don't need to be the expert. We have a Neumi 1, 2, 3 system for that. But with that in mind, Bert, in relation to our products and everything we've talked about today, is there any closing remarks about where we're going as a company with our nanotechnology, and what advice would you have to the members about keeping it simple?
Oh, keep it simple. By all means, keep it simple. We are dealing with very small particles. The bottom line is they're more bioavailable. It's an experiential product. It's quicker for them to learn how to share it by saying, look, I tried it and this is what happened. If somebody has more questions, we can certainly give them additional resources, and we have on a number of places. But in terms of an overall direction, where are we going with this? My whole reason for being is to help. It's to make sure that what we have can make a difference. We are continually working on new products. We have probably a dozen in the pipeline. We want to be careful that we don't go further than run faster than we can walk. We want to make sure that what we have is genuinely effective. So there are some times that we will be in a R&D mode and get really excited because we got a brand new product. We need to check ourselves and say, yeah, but let's see what it really looks like in a 1 month, 2 month, 6 month process. I can tell you that I have been involved with products. As you can tell, the hair's gray. I've been involved as an attorney in new startup companies for 45 plus years. And I've seen a lot of different technologies come and go. I got to tell you, the reason I'm here is because I think our technology has a real possibility of making a difference.
Beautiful, beautiful. What a great call. Thank you so much for all of this, your wisdom and sharing it today. I'm glad I locked the chats on the Zoom room, because I'm telling you, I'm seeing questions pop up in the members room, but we can't keep this call going forever, guys. We will have Bert on another call. If you haven't booked yourself into the birthday event, I'm flying all the way over from Australia to the US in less than a week now to be there at the anniversary event, and Bert will be speaking there. So there's another opportunity so you can hear a little bit more from Bert, which will be fantastic. So I want to thank everybody for coming today. And this will be a recording that we will get into the app that you can then use to send out. Again, let me just reiterate. If you become the knowledge source with glutathione up the wazoo, you will slow your growth down. And I'll give you a final example of that. In the previous company, I said before, I saw all the slow growth people with lots of glutathione knowledge, and the people who have big businesses were systemized. It took me 11 years to get to 14,000 members there, because there was no system and everyone's running in 10 different directions. It took us less than 2 years to hit 75,000 members of the company and 30,000 members in the team, following a Neumi 1, 2, 3 system without the knowledge or the need to be the expert in glutathione. So if that doesn't say something to you, amazing. Actually, one last thing. Other companies out there, safest way to say this, the other companies out there in the glutathione space, I've found out are having issues with supply chain at the moment. This will be a final question for you, Bert. And that means that, getting hold of enough cysteine, getting hold enough of whatever the ingredients are to make their products. In some cases, one company I've heard of has been out of their main product for 4 months. Could you imagine trying to build a business where one of your products disappears off the radar for 4 months? Because we nano-size, will we ever have any real issues when it comes to supply chain with what we do with nanotechnology, Bert, as a final question?
Well, I think that the the response to that is that we would minimize that risk entirely. You got to remember that we use so little, and because of that, we can pre-order a whole lot of raw materials. Right now, we have no issues standing right today. And we've got enough raw materials in our lab to do easily a year's worth of what our current volume is. If you doubled it, we'd have 6 months worth. The reality is that the supply chain issues for us don't seem to be the materials. If anything, it may be bottles, but we've now ordered, geez, I want to say we've ordered enough to do the next 2 years worth of bottles. So I don't see us having a supply chain issue.
Beautiful, beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for today. There's a statement out there, guys, we've probably heard before, which knowledge is power, which I think is rubbish. Going to an event and learning is the power. The power is in putting that into your processes. So as I said, if we have this recorded, the good news is you don't need to be the expert. You'll be able to send this video through and say, hey, listen to Bert, our scientist, talk exactly about what the product does and doesn't do, and let the tools do the work. So thank you for attending today. I'm going to unfreeze the chat if anyone wants to say good night, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And yeah, look forward to seeing you all on the next call. All the best.